Well, hello, Clenton.
Hello, Nick. You're not supposed to laugh, Nick, when I say hello, Nick.
That's all it took.
Yeah, that's all it took.
So we've got a new podcast here, haven't we? Chats by Comcats or Community Catalysts.
I'll still struggle to get my head around that. Say that again, Nick.
Chats by Comcats, which it may take off.
I think it will. Comcats? No, Comchats. See, even I got that wrong. What a double act.
So Comchat is about hearing from interesting people in the sector, the social sector, who've invested their lives and their careers into supporting the growth and development of community, really. So we're going to speak with some really interesting people over the next few weeks. And our first episode today is an interview with Pip Cannons from Somerset County Council. Pip is the strategic manager for commissioning in adult social care. And it was a really, really interesting chat with Pip because she talked a lot about the growth of micros in the county over the last few years. A micro provider being a small independent support or service that offers help, care or support to local people. And people can purchase these services of a micro provider directly or through perhaps a direct payment or a personal health budget. And these services include things like personal care, domestic help around the home and gardening and social support and things like that. And it's really taken off in Somerset, Clenton, hasn't it?
She described some magical networks appearing and how the council helped facilitate them, but also how they have taken on their own self-management of this and how community catalysts especially help support this to nurture, to grow, and now they're thriving.
And Pip was telling us something like 587 micros they've got there now, supporting 4,000 people across the county. So an enormous network.
I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that stuck in my mind from the conversation was about the appetite for risk that the council had, and also about putting their money where their mouth was. Mm-hmm. That's, to me, it's easily said, and there's a saying, don't tell me, show me. And I think they are showing. And that reminds me, and I think it sums up really beautiful, a quote by Martin Luther King. And he said was, we are caught in inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I think that sums it up to me, Nick.
That's a beautiful quote, Clinton. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, without further ado, let's listen now to our interview that we just did with Pip Cannons, the Strategic Manager for Commissioning at Somerset County Council, and I hope you enjoy. Pip, we have got some quickfire questions just to try and get to know you a little bit before we get into the meat of the interview, where we start asking the more serious questions.
These quickfire questions kept us up all night. Burning questions. These are probing questions. Pip, have you got any pets?
I have, yeah, absolutely. Outdoor pets only, no indoor pets.
Okay.
So, currently have 2 guinea pigs and 1 pony.
Wow.
Pony. Wow. Okay.
Okay, Pip. What would be your favourite meal?
Oh, my favourite meal is pasta and green vegetables.
What, pasta and green vegetables, did you say?
It's my go-to. Afraid so. Yeah, absolutely. And it's absolutely the worst thing on the hit list for my children.
Very
I wonder why.
Oh, I don't understand. I really don't get it. Maybe it's the brown pasta.
Oh, even worse, brown pasta.
No, even better.
So, Pip, have you got any hobbies or pastimes that you enjoy?
Yeah, riding is my hobby and my pastime. So spending time with a pony, taking him out just around the local lanes and stuff.
Your favourite TV show?
Oh, I don't think I have one. I'm not a big TV fan. I watch it, but I'm not that. It's an end of day sort of blur, if you know what I mean. I don't care what it is. I'll switch it on and watch it.
What was the last book you read?
So the last book was The Dutch House, and I can't remember the name of the author, but it's a really interesting book. Yeah, loved it. Really, really great.
Favourite place to go on holiday?
I'm here. I'm in France.
Oh, you're in France?
Yes. So in the Pyrenees, right down in the south. So yeah, love it here.
My question is, and I think this question gets to the nub of trying to find out who you are, Pip. What would you do with £1 million?
Oh my Lord.
And you can't say give it to charity or a good cause. It has to.
No, I'd go travelling, definitely. So it would be about exploring new places, taking the family on a massive, round the world trip. That'd be brilliant.
That's brilliant. Well, thanks for enduring that, Pip. That's great. We now know you. We now got to know you a little bit more. So we can get into the meat of the interview. So we're really keen to hear a little bit more about your work and a little bit more about Somerset's strategic investment, I suppose, in the communities across the county over the last 10 years. How Community Catalysts may have been involved in that, may have been supporting that, and what kind of got you guys going with that in the first place?
Somerset is a real rural, large county, and we have a really strong sense of community across the whole patch. And so that's something that when I joined the council about 6 years ago, I was really keen to sort of work with and build on as a really strong foundation. And our relationship with Comcats was really about how we could optimise the great resources that we knew we had out there and get closer to it, enable us to tap into some of the potential within the communities, and bring that into the more formal environment that we work in the county council. So it was to optimise that. But the biggest issue we faced at the time was, particularly in our really rural areas, was a lack of formal care. We were really struggling to get home care for people. And so the opportunity with Comcats was about tackling that in a very specific rural area. So in West Somerset, where we've got the moor and a lot of isolated settlements, and it's quite sort of dispersed population, if you like, but a very ageing population with high need for care, and we just couldn't get the care in there that we needed. But we also know that that's an area where there's a lot of resilient people, where there's really strong sort of sense of supporting people in your community. So putting those things together, working with Community Catalysts, who've got a really good way of working and techniques and what have you to support that approach, it just kind of made sense for us.
Tell us more about the micros that have been established and that side of the work.
Yeah, so the micros started as a project in West Somerset, in this really rural area where we were struggling to get care. By working with Community Catalysts, we brought in a coordinator, so the lovely Reese, and he's really been the catalyst. He's really been the opportunity to get into our communities, to have those conversations, to just talk about what it is that we're looking for, and to enable people to say, yeah, do you know what, I want to do that, and to then be able to help people to become self-employed as a micro. That's the magic of this. It's people becoming self-employed, so setting up their own enterprises to do some good work. They can work very, very locally. So initially we were thinking, we'll get another 20 sort of micro providers in that area, and nearly 6 years on, we're now up to 587 across the county. So it's been one of those things where it was so successful, it worked so well that we spread it across the county, and now every week we've got people asking to sign up.
Tell us more about how this investment has helped, because you mentioned about West Somerset, ageing population and the lack of care and support for the west of Somerset. Would I be wrong in saying the west of Somerset would have rural inequality issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's one of the most rurally deprived parts of the UK. And in fact, we've got some funding to help overcome some of that. But we started this before that funding started. This was just about, from a social care point of view, from an adult social care point of view, we had a need to do something that would make a difference locally. And so this was just an opportunity that we grasped as a result of that. But yes, inequalities in West Somerset. It's an ageing population. It's one of the fastest ageing populations in the UK. A dispersed, low income, below the national average income per household. A lot of families with children on free school meals, etc.
And how has this investment helped to address some of that health inequalities that you've just described?
I think by having care that's close to home, it means that you're matching up local need and local assets close together. So you're creating an environment that's sort of very supportive and enabling people to get independent care, yes, close to them that they can then sort of work with, talk to. It sort of just builds up that relationship and that trust locally. So in terms of how it's helped health inequalities, it just means that we've now got care available that we didn't have before. And through that, we've created a network of micros across the whole county though now. So this is about joining up the whole. In every single community now, we've got micros that will support people as well.
How did you take the first step to, building on micro providers? Because you just mentioned now you've got them all over.
I suppose that's just about taking the bigger picture. At the same time as starting the micro project, we were also looking at how we could do better with adult social care generally. So a larger project that I was running at the time was about how can we make the reducing budget go further, meet demand, which was ever increasing, and also improve outcomes. So this is at the time that we were introducing the Care Act. So we wanted to change the way that we were working in adult social care anyway. We wanted to become much more focused on communities and local support, enabling people to live at home, promoting independence, all of these sorts of things. So the micros became part of that mix of solutions that I felt we kind of needed. And so out of a project that initially was sort of 6 months, came up with some principles, working very closely with the adult social care team in West Somerset as well. This was separate to the micro project initially. And that was very much around how we could reach out, how we could do things differently. And as part of that, it became very apparent that we needed to tap into local support through local networks, etc. So we've got a village agent that was operating in West Somerset, so we tapped into her, and then through her we linked into the micro. We sort of just linked it all up. So we had micros operating, we've got the village agent, we have the adult social care teams, the primary care teams, the community health, and just linked it all up, joined up those conversations so that we are effectively working better as a system and using the resources that are available to us. In terms of spreading it then, it worked there, and if it can work in rural West Somerset, I didn't see why it couldn't work elsewhere. So it was then about taking it to the different teams and areas. It was about, particularly for the micros, that was about going into communities, into parishes, parish meetings, into local community meetings, talking about micros, and then just seeing what the interest was. So we do these startup surgeries all over the place, and it's usually about one a week, and we rotate where they are around the county. We've got 4 districts, so they tend to be in each of the different districts each month. And that's something that Reece, that I talked about before, he helps coordinate, and I've now got additional resource working with him.
Do you think there's other value, Pip, in this micro approach? So it's not just about the work that they're doing alongside people, but actually it feels like it's building community in itself. And as this network of people are connecting together, they're becoming a community too.
Yeah, I think that's the most exciting thing about the micros, actually, is that it's not just about going out and asking people if they want to set up a local business and helping them do that, which is effectively what the micro program is. for me, the magic is that it starts to grow organically,
Mm-hmm.
and micros link up with other micros. So what we've now got is networks operating around the county. I think we've currently got about 11, but effectively all we do is facilitate that. So we help set up sort of Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, what have you, and started facilitating sort of a monthly catch up. But now that kind of operates itself. Each of them are self-managing. And that then becomes a community within a community. And then with the village agents as well, that I've now supported across the county, they link to the village agents, and the village agents link them into other communities.
And I suppose care, if we're honest, it's big business, isn't it? Or it can be big business. How has this affected the way that market looks across the county?
I mean, it's not been without its issues, if I'm honest. You know, we did this from the beginning because we had unmet need, and it was in a place where we couldn't get care agencies to work. It just wasn't profitable for them to do that. So that was how we started. When we started to spread the concept and ask, you know, anybody in the county if they wanted to sign up and be a micro and support people in their local community, that's when we then started to build the number of micros, and that's when we started to get some potential issues with our formal care agencies. And that then did lead to us having some conversations about, for me, the need for both. I think, you know, that you absolutely need your care agencies to be available in each part of the county, and I always describe it as they create the big rocks. They're the ones that are there for the core care, okay, but the micros fill the gaps. They're the sand that fills up the bucket, okay. So you need your rocks to fill up the majority of your capacity, but the sand is the bit that then just gives you that flexibility. It sort of smooths it out, fills the gaps. Mm-hmm. And I think the two work really well together. And we're starting to see that. We're seeing some of our care agencies now reaching out and working alongside micros, particularly where they can't meet the need. So they will suggest micros. Mm-hmm. Others are still resisting. So, you know, don't get me wrong. It's not all rainbows and unicorns in Somerset, but far from it. You know, there is the odd tension. But for me, I think some tension, and can be helpful. In respect that it perhaps stops complacency, particularly where a care agency has just been working a patch without any formal of a competition for a while, for the micros to come along and then for them to feel threatened by individual workers, I find interesting. And so when you dig into that, there's all sorts of things there, but actually the majority of our care agencies have then responded brilliantly. They've seen it as an opportunity. They see that they are different, and you know, coexisting is fine.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that, Pip. So what keeps you going? And what are your hopes for the future? I'm just sneaked in two questions in one there.
You are sneaky. Absolutely sneaky. Yeah, okay. What keeps me going? The excitement when we make these links, when we make these connections, when I see the impact it has, the difference it makes. You know, the beauty of this is that it's not just one-dimensional, it's multi-dimensional. That's what excites me. So, you know, the fact that we're creating micros is to support our ageing population and population that needs support at home. But actually there's a benefit to the micro as well. We're giving employment. So it's sort of, you know, and building communities. By them linking it to the agents, we create this new network of people that are all operating at a community level. We're creating something that's different from the standard care package, if you like. So it creates choice for people, and I think that's great. And it's local choice. So it's about enabling people to get support from someone that they know from within their own community, which is always good.
And do you think this work you've been doing over the last few years is it going to help you in the future as we move into a very difficult time now for everyone, for individuals, for their families, for communities, for organisations, local government? What difference do you think this kind of work you've been doing will make in that? And do you feel like it's built some resilience?
Yeah, I think community resilience is something that we've talked about a lot over the last few months since we've been in the pandemic situation. And it's just been fantastic that in Somerset we've already had a lot of community resilience, that we've had the networks, we've got these players on the ground already. So actually what we've been able to do is just ramp that up in order to meet the increase in demand. We've already got people on the ground that we can tap into and connect to get to reach out to the people that we need to reach out to. So I think it's been a really valuable test of the system. And for me, it's just, I've been, I thought we were doing well before. The pandemic's just made me think, oh my Lord, the opportunity has just been phenomenal to just show how well established this mechanism, these models, these ways of working are, and also how creative it still is, and the new stuff that's just popping up all the time. So stuff that we've been talking about doing for a while has suddenly just happened. So we've gone online. We're now supporting people remotely where people weren't doing that before. So all of these things have just kind of happened overnight. That's just, but at the core of it, it's all about building community resilience. It's all about helping people to help themselves or get support locally, which means that you can stay at home, you can stay within your own communities where you've got friends and other support around. And people always ask me, so why does it work so well in Somerset? And I don't really know the exact answer to that, but I do know there's some key ingredients. And I do think that there's something about the appetite for risk. There's something about the determination to make a difference and to think differently and creatively, and actually not just talk about being creative or collaborative or community led, but actually to really live it, dream it, make it happen. So I think those are important, and also putting your money where your mouth is. So it's not about huge amounts of money, but it is about putting some critical support in place. So for me, that's been about having a core team that I can just make sure is there to help have those conversations, build those relationships, extend that reach of the stuff that's happening quite often on its own in the communities. Effectively, what we do is we just bring into the light some of the stuff that was happening anyway. So that's what it's all about. I think it's, people ask why Somerset, and I think it can happen anywhere. I think it's just about the real commitment. Are people really committed to doing something differently?
Pip, thank you so much for sharing all that, and thank you so much for coming on the first episode of Com Chats.
Pip, I would like to say I'm absolutely jealous because you're in France, and enjoy and keep safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pip. It's been a pleasure to meet you and hear from you, and all the best.